I loved growing up in El Paso. My mother is a native of El Paso, and her family has lived here for about 120 years. She's a very proud El Pasoan and a very proud Texan. On the other hand, my father was from Boston, and he was a very proud Bostonian. In fact, his older brother, my Uncle Richard, was a professor of applied mathematics at Harvard. And so growing up, I had a very strong Eastern and Western influence in the house, and it made for a very interesting dynamic and family conversation. After graduating from Irvine High School, I went east to college, to Vassar, and I spent my junior year abroad at Trinity College, Dublin. Dublin and Ireland were a revelation to me. The wonderful social and cultural life, but especially the rich and vital literary life of Dublin, for which it's famous. And so when I returned for my senior year at Vassar, the day after commencement, I caught the next flight out of New York and moved to Dublin to pursue the life of a writer in the great European tradition. The Irish literary renaissance was still alive in the late 20th century. It had begun in the 19th century, but it was still alive when I lived there. It was in the air and in the speech of the people. Dublin was still the city of W.B. Yeats and James Joyce, and even of Johnathan Swift, the author of Gulliver's Travels. That is the 18th century, and much of Dublin's finest architecture is 18th century. In fact, one could say that Dublin is a Georgian city. I would even go further to say that at a deep level, Ireland was the Ireland of Edmund Spenser, the poet of the Faerie Queene. That is the 16th century. What really brought home the Irish literary renaissance to me and its presence was that I had the honor of having tea with W.B. Yeats's son. I didn't know him, but a great friend of mine knew him very well, Patrick Clancy. Clancy was an architect and a literary man. He knew all of the important writers in Dublin and many of the writers in London. He had done important architectural work in London, and in later life he did a lot of important restoration work in Dublin and preservation work. But early in his career, he designed the Poets' Corner in St. Stephen's Green, which is the beautiful gardens in the center of Dublin. And the showpiece of the Poets' Corner is the famous bronze statue of W.B. Yeats. So he knew Yeats' son very well, and the three of us had tea together in the famous Bewley's Cafe. And I went on to write and publish 7 books of poetry there, and I'd like to read a short selection for you now. The Baptism of Christ. And Jesus went down to the river Jordan, where a great multitude was assembled, men, women, children, the old, the sick, the possessed, rich and poor, Jews and Gentiles, out of the east and west. Some knelt alone. Some turned their minds away from food or sex. Some cared for their own or the infirm. Some did not speak. Some waded in the sunny water, splashing their breasts and faces, the water cool and the stones easy. In the river stood one who had authority, a man who recalled the flood, a man who remembered the Red Sea, a man who baptized with water. John the Baptist had eyes like black pearls and long golden braids crowned with laurel that plucked the river's strings as the man preached, planted like a white pillar in the flowing blue, his face radiant with the Ionic smile. And John the prophet sang to the hills, song flowing off his tongue according to the word of God. Prepare ye the way of the Lord. Make his path straight. Every valley shall be filled, and every mountain and hill shall be brought low. And the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough way shall be made smooth, and all flesh shall see the salvation of God. Enchanted, the wise oaks and the poplars with lofty branches, the soft lime trees and beeches, the virgin laurel, brittle hazels and ash trees, smooth firs and silver birches, sycamores and maples, willows weeping on the streams, fragrant pines, slender tamarisks, chieftain elms, double-hued myrtles and viburnum with royal blue berries, the cedar, the cypress, the pistachio, and the wild strawberry moved at the roots beneath unsettled stones. And all the life of the wild, predator and prey, the wolf and the calf, the lion and the lamb, the unicorn and the birds of the wilderness gathered around the prophet as a church. Then Jesus appeared before John, and he suffered him. And when the Baptist raised Christ out of the holy river, the old world was gone, and the new world was born, the dove lighting upon him. Discobolus. All-conquering Sun appears in glory. Stars arrayed in deep, complex space fade before the circle of fire, dawning red gold over the desert sea. Ascending in power, throned in majesty, transcendent in essence, out of nothing generating all that is, transfiguring the human into divinity. Helios. In the spirit of worship, the athlete steps into the supreme temple of light, naked in the brilliance. Attic brow, calm and contemplative. Vision, august and immortal. Virgin soul conceiving in love. Right hand reaching to the horizon of being to possess the beautiful. Graceful is the art of the turn, the balanced motion of the human form in aspiration. The discus soars daedal and dazzling, spinning like a wheel through the air. Higher than dream, swifter than sound, describing the arc of the heavens as angels lift up their voices. Faust the Magician, Scene 1. The covenant I have made is absolute and eternal. My blood is the seal of my damnation. I live without faith and without hope. I have no remorse and no fear. I have sacrificed my son on the one true altar before which the generations tremble and follow to their graves. Like the ghostly pagans whose perfect conviction and courage make us poor in religion and action, I gave his life and mine to the commanding deity. These hands, which were weak and ignorant, have given what was more vital to me than the beating of my heart, dearer than my bosom where he lay his head, my breast, which I have torn apart. My son was the most beautiful being of this new age. It's Apollo. What the Greek envisions in luminous sculpture, what the Italian exalts in marble and fresco, what Dürer draws in the radiance of heaven, contemplating the divinity of his name, I sired in breathing flesh. I perform this liturgy as proof of my will to be what I was ordained to be from the beginning, a God on earth. Although I hear hell growling for me with ravenous belly, until the day this mad world burns in the fire of its evil, the apocalypse which my genius will light across the heavens like the sun annihilated in its own glory, and millions across the ages are dragged by the hair, screaming down the throat of Satan, the peak of human knowledge and power, will be Faust. Scene 16. When Hercules ascended out of hell, his ancient enemy drove him mad. The hero wrestled naked against himself in the blinding glare of cursed Thebes. He bashed the heads of his sons against the wall, and their blood drenched his white body. Then he stood like a great bear, showing his teeth, threatening the cosmos with his mighty club, the starry walls that guard the palaces of the immortal. And Hercules, baited mad, bellowed, I labored for the sins of the gods and the good of man. I shouldered the earth, bearing it firm when Atlas faltered. I defeated the giant wrestler who vomits corruption, the birds whose worms, visible and invisible, march with their diseases, I exterminated. The boar that tears up the fields with its tusks and starves nations to death, leaving nothing but bones, I burned in the pit. The stables of Augeas, the filth of human stables, I civilized, and the water sparkled. The all-devouring lion of Nemea I strangled, and my side bears the scar of its claw. The hydra whose heads grow back like the trials you inflict on me, I conquered and will conquer again and again. I will batter down your citadel in the heavens as I have risen triumphant over hell, so that creation disintegrates to the blank totality out of which this universal contagion was spawned. Then Hercules collapsed in the chains of his insanity and wept in his wretchedness. And Theseus, who he delivered from hell, brought Hercules to Athens to become clean. Scene 22. Caligula, appear. Let them hate me as long as they fear me. Under your boot, the 7 hills are seething ants, chaotic, dismembered, dead. If only the Romans had one neck to hang them. No monument with sentences in immortal Latin that turn flesh to stone could state all the achievements of your glorious reign, when your judgment reigns like Mars Ultor on the good and evil, the innocent and guilty. I have the right to do anything to anyone. It is a miracle what one man can do in 4 years, only to die at 29 with your vision just dawning. It doesn't matter that they wiped out your blueprint with salt, defiled your palace where you'd run all night screaming for dawn, minced your horse, the leader of the Senate, freed the patriots from the mines, opened the granaries so Rome could eat, dumped your poisons in the sea, killing everything, melted your gold statue and turned your temple to a vomitorium, decapitated the statues of the gods and goddesses crowned with your head. With a nod, every head in this room would come off. The more they suffered, the more they praised you. Kill so that they beg to die. No triumphal arch could make your glory greater when the name Caligula makes Rome small. You were, you are, you will be. There is no antidote for Caesar. Remember the prophecy of Tiberius, for it is the last. I am breeding a viper for Rome and a phaeton to burn the world.